Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtihi. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मृतमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदातिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं श्रीजीवं सात्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च ये कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीश गोपीकांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन करुणांति राधे राधेश्वरी विश्वान प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमो विष्णुपाद कृष्ण भष्टा पुतले श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नाम नमस्ते शाश्वत पच्चले विद्याश्री वाणी पाश्चात्य जगदारण्य वांचन पतविश्च वासुदेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मोहम करो वाचन मोहम्मद श्री गुरु परमात्मा श्री चैतन्य मिश्र Hare Krishna. So welcome you all to the today's Ekadasi subject discussion. We are today discussing on Pavitra Ekadasi and also Vaishnava etiquette, particularly dealing with senior Vaishnavas. So the Ekadasi today is called Pavitra Ekadasi. I have also read somewhere it is also called as Pavitro Tapana Ekadasi. It's also called Putra de Ekadasi. So nevertheless, I'll read out. So Pavitra Ekadasi is described in the Bhavishottara Purana in the conversation between Lord Krishna and Maharaj Yudhishthira. So once Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Krishna, "Oh Madhusudana, the killer of the Mathu demon, what is the name and importance of the Ekadasi that occurs during the waxing moon in the month of July and August?" So we are in the end of August. So this is the last Ekadasi in the month of August. So Lord Krishna replied, "O king, the name of this sacred Ekadasi is Pavitra Ekadasi. Now please listen attentively as I tell you about this Ekadasi. It destroys one's sinful reactions. By hearing the glories of this Ekadasi, one obtains the result of performing a Vajapeya sacrifice. Now, don't ask me what is Vajapeya because I went through a lot of books. There is no mention anywhere about this particular sacrifice. So, Lord Krishna replied that by observing this Ekadasi, one becomes free from all sinful reactions. So he said, then further he continues, long ago in the beginning of Dwapar Yuga, there was a king named Mahijit who ruled the kingdom names Mahishmatipuri. The king had no sons and was unhappy while conducting his activities. A married man who had no son had no happiness, either in this life or the next. For many years, the king tried to get a son, for he was not fortunate enough to get a jewel-like son who would give him all pleasure. So in the Western years, it was always required. The people generally felt that they should have a son to carry forth the dynasty, which is true also. We have lost the system these days. But then another example is of King Chitraketu, who didn't have a son for a long time. And uh, uh, he had so many wives. And finally, when he had a son, then that son became a king, cause of grief also. So, having a son is required particularly for kings who have a dynasty to continue. So, during this Dwapara, this king was there, Mahijit, who had no son at all. So, he was not happy, and it is said that one who doesn't have a son, because the son is required to deliver the parents from a hell called Pu. It's that's why this is also called Putra Ekadasi. Pu means it's a place, and the forefathers go to this planet called Pu, and Putra means one who delivers the forefathers from this planet called hell by offering oblations. That means we observe Shraddha, and so forth. So the king was not happy. So one day, realizing his own pathetic condition, the king called his subjects, whom he treated as his children, to the royal assembly and said to them, "Oh, dear subjects, I have never committed any sinful activity in my life. I did not increase my treasury by unlawfully earned wealth. I did not plunder the wealth of the Brahmanas and the gods. Rather, I have conquered this world by following the proper code of conduct, and I have maintained all of you like his own children. I have never hesitated to award due punishment even to my dear own ones like my brother and relatives according to their faults, and I have shown due respect even to my enemy if he was gentle and pious." So the Lord said uh, that the king had subjects were whom the king were looking at as his children. In fact, all dependents or the citizens are all depending on the king. So they are looked at as the children of the king. So the king has not said that he has not committed any sinful activity. He has not increased any treasury by unlawful means. Many kings accumulate treasury by unlawful means. Then he says, "I did not plunder the wealth of Brahmanas and gods." That means taking away the wealth of gods and the Brahmanas is not proper. Rather, he says, "I have followed the proper code of conduct." Then he says, "I have maintained all of you like my own children." Then he says, "I have never hesitated to award due punishment even to my dear ones like my brother and relatives according to their faults." That means even if one's near and dear ones like those relatives have to be punished, they have to be punished. This and the king has done this extreme well. And this is, "I have shown due respect even to my enemy if he was gentle and pious." So the king has performed his duty well as per all these things, the points. Then he says, "Oh, Brahmanas, in spite of traveling on the religious path like this, I have no son. Please consider carefully the reason for this and advise me." The point is that, in principle, one who don't know, follow the religious principles, they have to face a lot of difficulties, like in the case of this king who didn't have a son. So after hearing so it is always possible that some activity might have been conducted in the past for which he's seeing the reaction in the current life. Then it says, after hearing these words of King Mahiji, the king's Brahmana advisors discussed the subject matter among themselves and decided that for the benefit of the king, they would go to the forest and visit the ashramas of the great sages who knows past and future. So the kings normally used to take advice from the Brahmanas who were well versed in the scriptures. So the king asked the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas then decided to go to the forest and ask other great sages who were able to predict the past, present, and future. They were called Trikalagna because they were fully renounced and they were fully taken shelter of the Lord, so they could predict the past, present, and the future also. So after entering and wandering here and there, they came across various ashramas. Finally, they met Lomasha Muni, who was engaged in severe austerities. His body was spiritual and full of bliss, and he strictly observed the vow of fasting. He was self-controlled and knew the science of eternal religious principles, and he was well conversant with the knowledge of the scriptures. So all the Brahmanas met this Lomasha Rishi, who was well versed in the scriptures and he was had full sense control. He followed all the religious principles. His duration of life was as long as that of Brahma, and he was a radiant saint. The Kalpa of Brahma is a day of Brahma, which runs into millions of years. So that is the duration of life of this sage. So when a Kalpa of Brahma passes, one hair falls from his body. That is why the name of the sage is Lomasa. The sage Lomasa who knew the past, present, and future. So this name Lomasa was given to him because he could see the past, present, and future. And his life was such that on one day of Brahma, one hair falls from his body. So we can understand what is his lifespan. So enchanted by this great sage, the advisors of the king offered their obeisances to him and spoke with humility. "O great sage, due to our great fortune, we have met a great soul like you." So they all considered themselves to be very fortunate to have met the sage like Lomasha. Lomasha Rishi inquired, Who are you all? Why have you come here? Why are you praising me like this? The Brahmanas replied, O great sage, we have come to you to solve our dilemma. O Lord, our king Mahijit has no sons. We are his subjects and we are treated by the king as his own children. We feel disturbed on seeing the distress of the king. O best of the Brahmanas, we are willing to undergo austerities here. It is the good fortune of the king that today we have met a great personality like you. And by darshan of a great personality, a man certainly attains all perfections. Please instruct us in such a way that our king can have a son. So they are all asking the Rishi. The Rishi is asking, and why you are all here? For which they are replying that we have come to you because we have a big issue in the kingdom because the king doesn't have children and he is distressed. Now, if a leader, not only the king, is not in a happy situation to lead his dependents, he will not be able to perform his duty properly. So the sages, they said that we are will prepared to undergo any type of austerities that you suggest us, and we have met a great personality like you, which is the uh, perfect state. So after hearing their sincere prayer, the Sod Loma Shah entered into deep meditation for a moment, immediately understood the king's previous life. He then said that in his previous life, this king was a poor merchant. So the king, as I said, could see the past, present, and future, and he said the king was a merchant in his previous life. He committed a sinful deed. Once, while traveling from village to village in the course of his business, he became overwhelmed with thirst. So, in his previous birth, Lomeshwar Rishi was a king, and because he was still pious, he became a king this birth also. So he was traveling from village to village, and he came over. He was very thirsty. It was a midday of Dwadasi in the month of July. Soon he found a beautiful lake and decided to drink its water. So he was thirsty, particularly when you are traveling from one place to another. If you are thirsty, if you are not able to drink water, then you feel exhausted. So the king took some water. So at that time, a cow and her newly born calf came there to drink water. As the cow began to drink water from the lake, the merchant immediately drove her away and began to drink water himself. So when the cow came with the calf to drink water, now cow is one of the important vital aspects because cow is very, very dear to Krishna. And not only that, the cow came with a calf. So as soon as the king started to drink water, the cow came with a calf to drink water. As a result of obstructing the thirsty cow from drinking water, the merchant had committed a sin. For this reason, though the merchant has now been born as King Mahiji, by the influence of his merit, he cannot get a son. So the king had to suffer in this life because he prevented a cow and its calf from drinking water. Now, in the Shastras, there are many things that are given in the Manusmriti, and many people even still follow. They offer a lot of things to crow. Some people offer to, food to, before they even eat, they offer food to cows because these are considered, particularly a cow and a calf is considered to be very, very auspicious. So here in this case, the king deprived the cow and calf from drinking water, which was considered a sinful activity at that time, and so that king is suffering in his life for not by not getting a son. On hearing these words of the great sages, the king's advisors said, "O great sage, it is stated in the Purana that by the influence of merit, all of one's sinful reactions are forgiven. Please instruct us in such a way that all the sinful actions of the king will be destroyed and he can obtain a son." So the Brahmanas asked the sage, please give us, because Puranas and all give a lot of solutions. We don't talk about them in Kali Yuga because Kali Yuga, it is not practically possible also to observe these stipulations. So we don't find cows at all in Kali Yuga, particularly it's very difficult to see a cow. So the Brahmanas asked the king, please suggest some remedy by which the king can get rid of all the sinful reactions. The great sage Lomasa replied, there is a famous auspicious Ekadasi known as Pavitra Ekadasi, which occurs during the waxing month in the month of July, August. You and your king should properly observe this Ekadasi. Thereafter, you should give the merit that you earn by observing this Ekadasi to your king. So Lomashar Rishi suggested that both you as well as all your citizens, the Brahmanas, all you Brahmanas, please observe this Ekadashi and offer the results to your king. Uh, then he says, thereafter you should give the merit. If you follow my instruction, then the king will certainly be blessed with a son. After hearing this word from sage Lomasa, all the king's advisors became happy and satisfied. They offered their obeisances to the sage and returned home. They then met King Mahijit and explained to him in detail what they had heard from the sage Lomasa. So they were very happy that the rishi had given them advice, and then they went back to their kingdom and narrated what they had heard from the sage to the sage Lomasa. From the sage Lomasa. Thereafter, when the proper time arrived, the king's advisors remembered the advice of the sage and properly observed the vow. They vow away their accumulated merit to the king as advised by the sage. By the instance of this merit, the queen became pregnant, and in due course of time, she gave birth to a beautiful son. So they all observed the Ekadasi as was suggested, and uh, after that, they offered the results to the king. The king also observed, and then in the course of time, the queen became pregnant. Then, Lord says, O King Yudhishthira, anyone who observes the sacred Ekadasi is relieved from sinful actions and reactions, is free from sinful actions, and becomes happy both in this life and in the next. One who hears the glories of this Ekadasi obtains the happiness derived from having a son in this life and goes back to Godhead in this next life. So the Lord is saying that this is the background behind observing this Ekadasi. One who observes this Ekadashi becomes free from all sensible actions, and becomes happy both in this life and the next. Also, he says that one who hears the glories of this Ekadashi also derives happiness that is derived from having a son and goes back to Godhead. That means those who don't have a son, but just by hearing the glories of this Ekadashi also, they get the same happiness by hearing these glories, and then they go back to Godhead. So I'm summing up the first part. I'm coming to the second part, which is Vaishnava etiquette. One second. So I've been asked to speak on Vaishnava etiquette, that is, uh, in particular, with dealing with seniors. So Vaishnava etiquette is something that is considered to be an ornament of a Vaishnava. Uh, People wear ornaments. A Vaishnava is identified by his ornament, which is the etiquette with, or the etiquette with which he deals with everybody. Today, in particular, we are going to discuss about dealing with seniors. There are a few points that I could get from the Vaishnava etiquette manual. Uh, First one is within a Vaishnava tradition, it is an important expression of our humility to respect those who are in the senior position than ourselves. So it is necessary for a Vaishnava to respect those who are in the senior position in a humble way. So humility is very important, and one cannot respect others if one is not humble. So humility is a very important factor. Second one says in the chain of seniority, the senior most Vaishnava is the Guru, who is this yeah, is a Guru who is to be respected as a representative of God. So he must be given the same respect as Krishna himself. So we go through a lot of senior devotees on a day-to-day basis. The senior most is as good as the Guru. He is not the Guru, but he's as good as the Guru. He can be considered as a Shiksha Guru or also. And of course, we have to consider him as one of the Shiksha Gurus. And he's to be respected as a representative of God. So he must be given the same respect as Krishna himself. So in the morning in the Mangala, Guru Ashtaka we sing Yasya Prasad Bhagavat Prasadu, Yasya Prasadat Nakate Kudurupi, Dayan Svamtas Nasasti Santyam, Vande Guru Shi Charanacharandam. So a devotee of the Lord is as good as Krishna himself, and he is to be respected on the same line as Krishna himself. So a Vaishnava, senior most is to be considered as as good as a representative of God, must be given the same respect as Krishna. The next point comes the sannyasis. Among the sannyasis themselves, seniority is considered on the basis of who had taken sannyasa initiation earlier. So there may be centers where there are many sannyasis. So one should give respect to all the sannyasis, but then among themselves, one should give respect to the seniors, most sannyasi. That seniority is based on who has taken initiation, sannyasa initiation earlier. All sannyasis should be offered respectful obeisances, particularly when one first sees them in the day. So generally, wherever seniors are present, sannyasis are present, they are there in the temple itself, or closer to the temple. So the first thing that when we see them, we should offer our respectful obeisances whenever we see them. The next point that is mentioned in this itself, even Mayavadi sannyasi should be given proper respect, although one should not associate with them. So this is a very important point. Many times we may come across sannyasis who may be from different sampradayas. They may not be from a proper sampradaya. Even Srila, here the author mentioned that even Mayavadi, Srila Prabhupada always used to criticize Mayavadis because uh, they believe that they are Krishna, they are one with Krishna. And other type of sannyasi in this segment is they think that Krishna has no form, no this thing, etc. No name, no form, no pastimes, etc. So, in respect of authority, the sannyas should be given proper respect, but one should not associate with them. That means one should associate with sannyasis who are recognized as proper in the proper sampradaya. By now, you all know the four sampradayas: Shri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Sumara Sampradaya, and Brahma. We are from the Brahma Sampradaya. The next point to be is next are gurus, god brothers. They should be respected as one respects a spiritual master. So, uh, our gurus, sometimes they may be sannyasis. In ISKCON, there are Grihastha gurus also. They should be respected as one respects his own spiritual master. Uh, the next point that I address is devotees who have undergone Brahmana Diksha should be respected. Again, seniority is determined on the basis of who has been initiated earlier. So after sannyasis, then gurus, godfathers, then the next one to be respected is those who have taken Brahmana initiation. They should be respected. And in any place, there might be many Brahmana devotees. So the most one is the senior most who should be respected. And one has to follow that same order. After that, devotees who have accepted Diksha before us should be given due respect. So, after Brahmana initiation, the others who have accepted the Harinam initiation should be respected. The next point that is mentioned is special respect must be offered to the devotees who are senior in age. So, there might be uh, those who are very, very senior in age. In our temple also, I've seen many who are very senior. Some who have been associated with Srila Prabhupada, they might not have taken sannyasa. So, like that, one should respect even those who are very senior in age. The next point that is there is one should not instruct another person in the presence of a senior Vaishnava without first receiving his permission. So, there is a general tendency that one may give instructions to others, but one should not do that in the presence of a senior Vaishnava without receiving permission from him. So, if you have to give instructions to somebody uh, in the front of a senior Vaishnava, you must first take permission that I have to tell this devotee so and so things. Can I please have your permission so that I give him some instructions? And then, when the senior Vaishnava gives okay, then one may continue to give instructions to the others. Then there is another point that is mentioned that when ghee lamp is being offered to devotees after arati, seniority must be taken into account. Now, this is a very important point. At the same time, it's a very sensitive, and it is also sometimes this may not be possible. The point is, uh, when arati is going on, the arati that is offered to the Lord, that becomes the prasadam of the Lord, and that is to be first offered to the devotees, which we have classified from the beginning till now. They have to be first offered to sannyasis, then second initiation, then first initiation, and so forth. And that too on a seniority basis, because that is the etiquette. Uh, but I have got a point that is mentioned in Pancharatra Padipa, which explains, which dwells into deity worship. So there it is mentioned that that is the also the that is the correct proper way of showing our respect to the seniors by giving them the first Mahaprasada, the Mahaprasam of the Lord. Then we honor it as Mahaprasadam. But it also mentions sometimes in during Sundays uh, or I'm not mentioning about Sundays. It depends on temple to temple how many devotees come on a particular day, but particularly on a festival day, the senior devotees might have spread into various locations. It may not be possible for the one who is carrying the Lord's lamp prasada for him to first give it to the seniors and then go around giving others. He may be going crisscross here, there, because generally I've seen personally, even in temples like Mayapur and Vrindavan, they may be scattered. So it may not be possible for the person who's taking the lamp or even flowers to the first most senior most and then follow the process. So then one looks at the convenience. Of course, one does not ignore if they are all seated together. He goes and offers it to them and then continues to offer it to the rest. The point also mentioned in Pancharatra also is that depending on situation, time, place, and circumstances, one has to observe this. But at the same time, if one is not able to observe this particular etiquette due to a difficult situation like too much of crowd, the senior also should not feel that he has been ignored because the situation is such that if the devotees are scattered around, then he may not be able to go from one corner to the other corner and go on. He may not be able to offer the lamp to everybody else. So, the one who is taking the prasad lamp is supposed to be mature enough to follow the proper etiquette. At the same time, the seniors also should understand and accept that because of a high number of attendants, that this etiquette has not been followed. So he should not take it as an offense also. So these are the basic points that are given in the Vaishnava etiquette manual. Uh, I had one second. Of course, this is a quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ante Leela. It is the characteristic of a devotee to observe and protect the Vaishnava etiquette. Maintenance of the Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. And the consciousness of a devotee is manifested by his activities. So, if any depth of realization, if one has any depth of realization, the jal of a Vaishnava behavior will naturally pace all of his dealings and activity. That means the way a Vaishnava deals with others will come out forth in the process of his dealings with other Vaishnavas. We need to be aware that the vast majority of our exchanges are with devotees and the innocent public. Aparadha is the only real stumbling block in spiritual life. We must become fearful of committing offense. This awareness will loan sobriety and gravity to our behavior. We will naturally become humble. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will become pleased and we will make advancement without serious obstructions. So by expressing, dealing by proper humility, we can have a proper conduct of a proper relationship, proper attitude with the senior Vaishnavas, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will become happy with this. Srila Prabhupada's reputation depends on our behavior. In his compassion, he lifted us up from very degraded backgrounds. He was even criticized by the less intelligent in India for doing so. In order to maintain Srila Prabhupada's good name, our behavior should be very exemplary. So our dealings with other Vaishnavas should be so exemplary that Srila Prabhupada becomes very pleased. I'll just give one quote by Srila Prabhupada. Act in such a way that they will see we are of ideal character. So that means we should act in such a way they look at us as an ideal character. Another nice quote from Srila Prabhupada. How do you recognize a Vaishnava? Srila Prabhupada replied, he's a perfect gentleman. So if we act like a perfect gentleman, we can also be recognized as a senior Vaishnava. I think with this, I'll conclude the class for the day. Other quotes may not be time, and I have to recognize it. So any questions or any comments on today's class?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam. As far as Vaishnava etiquettes are concerned, can seniors Vaishnava, during queue prasada or some queue is there, can he cut the queue and go to the front? I'm just...
If a Vaishnava does that, we should not take it otherwise. He's a senior Vaishnava, so we should respect it. Is okay. In fact, we should give preference to them. As an etiquette.
All right. Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much for the class.
Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Pranams to everybody who's listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam. Thank you very much.